There are 65 million people in the U.S. who identify as Hispanic or Latino, and within that large demographic group are many different and vibrant cultures. Latin America plays a big part in those cultural identities and is predominantly a Spanish-speaking region. But younger generations are asking, is language crucial to determining identity? What about those Hispanic Americans who don't speak Spanish, sometimes referred to as no sabo? Laura Barón Lopez tells us more.
While language can connect people to their culture and be a source of pride for some, for others it can bring about embarrassment and anxiety. According to the Pew Research Center, 78% of U.S. Hispanics say it's not necessary to speak the language to identify as Latino or to the culture. Still, 54% of those who speak very little or no Spanish say other Latinos have made them feel badly about it. We spoke to Latinos around the U.S. who shared their Spanish-speaking journeys with us. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Gracie Mercedes, and I'm from New York. My family is from Dominican Republic.
My name is Wendy Ramirez, and I live in Los Angeles, California. I identify as Latina, Indigenous.
My name is Diego Payan. I currently reside in Northern California. I identify myself as a second-generation Chicano.
My name is Carmen Blanco. I currently reside in Greenville, South Carolina. I identify as Latina. I also identify as African American.
Growing up, my grandmother would speak Spanish to me. I would answer back in English. And, I grew up in the 80s and 90s at a time where assimilation was everything.
Spanish was my first language. By the time that I got to high school, I lost my ability to speak Spanish. I couldn't communicate with my mom really.
My father is from Nicaragua. I'm first generation, and my mother is African American. So I didn't really grow up with it in the household. My father was in that assimilation phase, so English was really important for him.
Growing up, I didn't speak Spanish fluently. It wasn't really until my grandma, my abuela, passed away in 2016 where it really sparked my interest.
My Latinidad has been challenged because of my Spanish fluency. I think it's extra hard being an Afro-Latina, looking the way I do. People don't assume I'm Dominican or have a Latin background.
Definitely shame is felt and given from family members, from community members, and it's not a good feeling. So I've taken it upon myself to learn more because I want to connect with my abuelos, I want to connect with family members, and I want to be of service to my comunidad.
There was always this feeling of being the only family member that was biracial and also not mastering the language. So I definitely felt sometimes ostracized.
Not all Latinos speak Spanish. Some Latinos speak Portuguese. Some Latinos speak French. So the fact that we're even saying that you need to speak Spanish to be considered Latino, I think to me is wrong.
I've always identified as a Latino, and I've always been around the cultura and the comunidad.
Since I've gotten older, I have recognized that there are different aspects to that culture and that I've been able to connect with the culture, although I may not have that fluency.
I think as a person of color in the United States, it's often hard to feel truly American because we are constantly othered and constantly put in a box. And I think that's the experience of so many Latinos who are second or first or third generation.
It's not just the language, the music, the food, the culture, the traditions. I mean, there's a lot of things that make Latinidad.
Not speaking the language does not mean that you're not of value, that you don't matter, that you don't belong. You have to give yourself grace for your story and how that's contributed to where your Spanish is today.
I'm joined now by Mark Hugo Lopez, Director of Race and Ethnicity Research at the Pew Research Center. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to say right off the bat, I can't speak Spanish. I was not taught Spanish by my parents. I'm fourth generation Mexican American, a Chicana, if you will. And many Latinos, myself included, feel like they're stuck between two cultures. And a lot of that is tied to fluency with the Spanish language. Why is that?
Well, we are in a moment where in the nation's Latino population, 65 million people, you have many who are recent immigrants who are, in many cases, Spanish dominant. You have many who are the U.S.-born children of immigrant parents who grew up speaking both English and Spanish and are today fluent in the language. But that fastest growing group of Latinos today is actually the group that is of the third or higher generation, meaning they're born in the U.S. to U.S.-born parents. And so we're in this mix of a refreshing of the population with new immigrants arriving who are Spanish-speaking, but at the same time a growing prideful Latino population that also speaks mostly English.
In your study, and some of the Latinos that we spoke to expressed embarrassment if they had the language and lost it, or if they were never able to speak Spanish, and said that they often faced jokes or teasing from other Latinos who were shaming them for it. I experienced that myself in high school. Other Mexican Americans would say I wasn't really Mexican because I couldn't speak it. Why do you think this is such a common experience?
It's a certain amount of street credibility, or credibility of, are you truly Hispanic? Well, you're only truly Hispanic if you speak Spanish. And that has been a common theme. Those who are seen as truly of the group have to be Spanish speakers, close to their immigrant roots, and proud of that. You also see it in recent cultural events. Like there was an event a couple of years ago where a young boy was interviewed by a Spanish language television after a soccer match in Los Angeles. And the young boy didn't speak Spanish. And immediately you could hear commentary from the studio in the background where people referred to him as a no sabo kid, I don't know kid. And so this is something that's been going on for some time and continues to this day.
I want to talk about that no sabo kids trend, because that's shaming for not being fluent, right? And no sabo kid is an incorrect translation of I don't know, so I don't know how to speak Spanish. What started as a put down has kind of changed, though. What is that new trend, and are some Latinos reclaiming their cultural identity through it?
Absolutely, because as you noted from our report, 78% of Latino adults tell us that you don't have to speak Spanish to be considered Latino in the nation today. That's unchanged from about 10 years ago, the last time that we asked this. And so you look at this and you see that, yes, there are many Latinos who are proud to be Latinos, to identify and to be part of the culture, and yet at the same time are also proud to say they don't speak Spanish.
Right. So how do different generations and age groups view this? Is there a gap when you're asking older Latinos versus younger ones?
Older Latinos are more likely to be Spanish dominant, particularly if they're immigrants, so that's perhaps no surprise. But you do see that it's younger Latinos that are experiencing the shaming more so than older Latinos. Particularly college-educated young Latinos are the ones who are hearing it most. More than 60% of them will tell us that they have been shamed at some point for not speaking Spanish. That really speaks to this is a current phenomena. It's something that's continuing to go on, but it's impacting young people. Another part of this is data from the Census Bureau, where we see that among those who are Latinos who are ages 5 to 17, more than half speak only English at home. Now, you look at older Latinos, and you'll see 70% plus speak Spanish at home. So there's a mismatch here in terms of the next generation and their ability to speak Spanish.
So many tie Hispanic heritage to the Spanish language, as you said, but there are some Latinos that don't speak the language. They may speak Portuguese, other languages. So what about those other languages and how they do or don't fit into what it means to be Hispanic?
Well, the federal definition of Hispanic is one that's very clear about people who trace their roots to the Spanish-speaking countries of Latin America and to Spain. Portuguese countries are not part of that definition. But the colloquial definition, or the general sense among the public, is that if you want to be Latino, you're Latino. And so that includes people of Brazilian background. So this is not just a story about Spanish speakers.
Is knowing the language of the culture important to keeping traditions alive?
There is a link. In fact, when we've asked Latinos about this, more than half will say it is Spanish, and speaking Spanish, that's the most important way you can maintain your cultural links. However, there are many other ways to do it as well. And we also find that many Hispanic parents want their kids to speak Spanish. But again, going back to the data and the experiences, the proof is, quote unquote, in the pudding. Many US-born Latinos are not necessarily picking up Spanish or not becoming fluent in it. They may take courses in high school, for example, or college, but don't necessarily become fluent in the language.
I would just like to say that my family, and I believe yours, still has the culture. So it's an important part of the upbringing. But Mark Hugo Lopez of Pew Research Center, thank you for your time.
Thank you.